Good morning, good morning. This is Moshe Landman with the Green Party. We've got a little cowboy, this is as close to green as I could find, but it's a little bit neon. We have a little spiritual music here today because we're talking about a very serious topic today. U.S. guns, police, and prisons. So, we have a lot to talk about here, and we are dealing with a crisis in America. People walking into schools with automatic weapons, killing people. We've got mass shootings every day. It's not funny, actually. It's very serious. So, unfortunately, the religious institutions are not doing anything about it, and neither is the government. So, I guess we're going to have to come right in like a cowboy, like, in the movies, and figure this out and solve the problem. Okay, that's enough songs. The United States has the highest incarceration rate and recidivism. That means coming back after you've been in jail and you commit a crime, you go back to the crime. Highest rates of any industrialized nation, while our nation's criminal justice system is generally too inhumane, ineffective, and prohibitively expensive. Our law enforcement priorities place too much emphasis on drug-related and petty nonviolent crimes and not enough on prosecution of corporate, white-collar, and environmental crime. That's important. The majority of prisoners are serving terms for nonviolent, minor property and drug addiction crimes, or violations of their conditions of parole or probation, while the poor, the undereducated, and various racial and ethnic minorities are heavily overrepresented in the prison population. We know that. The negative effects of imprisonment are far-reaching. Prisoners are isolated from their communities and often denied contact with the free world and the media. Access to educational and legal materials is in decline. Prison administrators wield total authority over their environments. Often those prisons are privately owned, which is ridiculous. Diminishing procedural input from experts and censoring employee complaints. Our priorities must include efforts to prevent violent crime and address the legitimate needs of victims while addressing the socio-economic root causes of crime and practicing policies that prevent recidivism. Greens oppose the increasingly widespread privatization of prisons. These prisons treat people as their product and provide far worse service than government-run prisons. Profits in privately run prisons are derived from understaffing, which severely reduces the acceptable care of inmates. Greens believe that greater, not lesser, public input, oversight, and control of prisons is the answer. Gun violence has become a national emergency in the United States. We all know this. The Green Party is outraged that the United States Congress has failed to act on the issue of gun violence that targets average citizens in our schools, entertainment venues, and shopping centers. It's time to repeal the Second Amendment. You heard it here. Put the NRA and gun lobbyists out of business and remove all guns from society. Even law enforcement should only use non-lethal weapons when necessary to maintain the peace. So there's a lot to talk about here. Every day we all read in the news and we see every other day or so a mass shooting in America. Various reasons for the shooting, but obviously it starts with the fact that people have these guns. We're not talking about the old one-shot gun. Automatic, semi-automatic. But why do we need guns in America? We need it if there's a war, God forbid, to protect our nation. Even then, we have way too many guns. Do we need it in our schools? Do we need it everywhere? The right wing, the Republicans, Trump, they want everybody to be armed because they're worried about those who might cause violence. So now it's a negative against a negative. Everybody's fighting everybody, shooting everybody, which is not the answer. The answer is to take away the guns. So the reason for the Second Amendment at the beginning of this country was we had the British here. We wanted the revolution. We also had a lot more, you lived in nature on your farm. There were wild animals. You needed a gun. So it was necessary. We also wanted to protect ourselves against the British and revolt. Today, we don't need guns at all. There aren't barely any wild animals. If there are, you call up someone, professional. They'll stun gun. We don't even want to kill the bears and the animals, the lions. We should just stun them. But The answer to this is repeal the Second Amendment. We know repealing an amendment is not easy, 2/3. You've got to go to the states or the Congress, so it's going to be hard. And then you have the NRA right down in Northern Virginia here, the base of the NRA. These people are very much confused, and it's a cult, really. At this point, it's a cult. You have Congress people from the right. They walk around and show off their guns like they're some sort of military, paramilitary, and then you have guns in the hands of all sorts of mentally ill people, gangs in the inner cities, gangs in Mexico. It's terrible. So how do we do it? It's going to be a major initiative to repeal the Second Amendment. We don't need it. The idea is we get guns off the streets, we get guns off. If you want to go to hunt, if you want to go to play games with guns, you go to the place, you rent it for the day, just like you would any other, race, with any other type of rental, and then you give it back at the end of the day. Even police, we've seen what they've done. I don't think they mean to do bad, but they're afraid of those they stop that might have a gun, so therefore they go ahead and they use lethal force. And sometimes it's hard to control themselves. I know many times they are at fault, and there is racism in the police forces around the country, but I don't believe that's the root cause. The root cause is excessive weapons everywhere, violence. So we need to get rid of the guns for the populace, and then the police don't have to use guns anymore. They can use stun guns. They can use these new long-distance sort of radar kind of materials, all sorts of new technology that does not kill people. Shoot them with this thing that makes you fall asleep or just stuns you. Okay, so that's really the solution. We need to train our police in making sure they treat everyone equally in nonviolence. That causes all sorts of trouble when the police, act in a matter that is not according to their rules and laws. And we've seen it so many times. So that's our view on the police, prisons, and guns. Prisons, we don't like private prisons. We want to make sure that a prison is a place to reform people. We're against the death penalty completely. We don't need a death penalty. That's just a negative. That's just a wrong after another wrong. Someone kills someone. And no one kills someone. No good person will kill someone. So there's something wrong with them. So we have to fix them. Now, if they need to spend the rest of their life in jail, yes, then that's fine. We can put them in jail. If they're ready to go out, they're ready to go out. So we need to have a system that really, many people are in jail too long or for the wrong reasons and too long. So there's this whole right-wing view from Texas and the West to be strict on crime, to be excessively strict, but that doesn't really solve the problem, and ultimately it just does not create a more peaceful society. So that's the green view overall. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful week. Continue to vote and consider actually registering green. It takes 2 weeks. You go online. Again, greens are pretty big in Europe. They're big in Australia. So here they don't take us seriously, but if people start to understand the views and read about it and learn, they may actually consider jumping into the party, and then we'll have a legitimate third party. Thank you so much. Have a great week.